In a press briefing, the Russian Defense Ministry rejected the findings of the IDF about the incident and insisted that the Israeli pilots who conducted the raid on a Syrian military facility in Latakia used the Russian reconnaissance aircraft as cover during their assault, something Israel has repeatedly denied. It also said Israel did not give Russia sufficient warning time ahead of the attack, and that it did not give accurate information on the specific target of the attack. The Russian plane was thus unable to move out of the target area in good time, he said. Further in the report, the Russian officials said that the Russian military had been misled by the Israel Defense Forces about the time and location of the airstrike. The Russian official also was very critical of Israel in the fact that, let me just read the quote. It says, "This is an extremely ungrateful response to all that has been done by the Russian Federation for Israel and for the Israeli people recently," he added, apparently referring to Moscow's role in enforcing a ceasefire agreement in southwest Syria that is meant to keep Iranian forces away from Israel's border. Also, according to this report, the hotline between Israel and Russia, or the cooperation between Russia and Israel, remains to be the same. But that's something that you may want to keep your eye on. I'll keep my eye on it as well, is to see if in fact that cooperation begins to disintegrate or if changes are made in some way. Certainly, if you look at Ezekiel 38, you would think that that's going to change in the near future, but it may not. It may stay the same up until the attack takes place. But while Russia is rejecting Israel's story behind this attack, Israel came right back and said they reject theirs as well, meaning they reject Russia's version as well. And it says the Israeli military on Sunday rejected the Russian Defense Ministry's claim that it was entirely to blame for the downing of a Russian spy plane by Syrian air defenses during an Israeli strike last week, reiterating that Syria was at fault. But the main thing you need to take away from this article is that Israel said, well, hey, we're not to blame, but even if we are to blame, meaning that even if you blame us, we're still going to continue to conduct raids in Syria as long as Iran continues to operate in that area. And with this happening, some officials in Israel are calling for the United States to become more involved in Syria so that things like this do not continue to happen, or just to make sure that Iran does not continue to get a bigger foothold in Syria than it does. And it wouldn't shock me a bit if in fact this peace proposal that is about to come forth does not include Russia taking control of Syria and that region and keeping countries and terrorist groups such as Iran and Hezbollah and the other terrorist groups that are in Syria right now under control. And of course, the United States would have the responsibility of taking care and making sure that the modern Arab world does not interfere with either Iran, Russia, or Syria. As many of you probably know, there was an attack on a military parade in Iran a couple of days ago, in which up to 2,000 people were killed. Iran has pointed the finger at the United States and Israel, but now they're pointing the finger also at some of the nations in the modern Arab world. So that might be one of the responsibilities of the United States to keep their people under control. But speaking of the Middle East peace plan between Israel and the Palestinians, President Trump will be addressing the General Assembly at the UN, all 193 members, on September 25th. Now, initially, it had been reported that it was a possibility that he might lay out some of the components of the peace plan, which has not been revealed in any way. There's been little nuggets given out, but it hasn't been given out in full strength. Now, it's been disclosed by officials at the United States State Department that it doesn't look like he's going to talk about the peace proposal and lay out any plans or any pieces of the puzzle on that day as previously believed he would. But I wouldn't put it past him if he did. So we'll keep an eye on that and see if there are any parts of the peace puzzle that are laid down. Well, that's all I have for you today. If you don't know the Lord, today is the day of salvation. Don't put it off. It's pointed out a man wants to die in the judgment. 150,000 people are going to die today. The Bible says that the vast majority will end up in a burning hell. Don't let that happen to you. Come to the Lord, allow Him to save you today. And you Christians, you need a copy of my Tribulation Period Survival Guide. It is written in 2 different versions. One is the paperback version that you can literally hand your lost loved one. They'll have a guide going through the tribulation period. You certainly don't want the world telling them how to react once the rapture takes place and the tribulation period begins thereafter. So get them this guide, whether it be the paperback version or the free version, which you can place on their device. It's the same book, just one of them is paperback, the other one is a digital version. But the digital version is written in 9 different languages. Go down to the description section in this video, get your click on the link, get your copy, and pass it on to your lost friends and loved ones. Well, this is Terry Malone with the Calvary Prophecy Report.